Welcome to Therapy Tech and Takeout, where humor meets healing with bite-sized chunks of wisdom and techie tips.
I'm Jackie Toll, entrepreneur, unapologetic spreadsheet addict, and low-rent stand-up comedian.
And I'm Toni Teixeira. I am a therapist entrepreneur, a bit of an ethics nerd, and recovering overthinker. And how you doing, Jackie? It's so good to see you. We haven't recorded in a couple weeks because of the holidays.
It's so nice to see you too, Toni. I've been so good, and I'm so excited to welcome everybody to what we're gonna start calling season 2. Since it's a
Season
new
2.
year.
I'm
Season
so
2. Yay!
It really is a celebration for us. We finished our first season, 2025. It's like a new milestone.
I know, and I'm excited for what this new year holds. We've got some interesting guests coming up, I hope, and some fun topics. So it should be a fun year, and I'm excited to share it and to start it off with you today, Toni. What have you been vibing on lately? I'm so excited to hear what's going on.
So I got the best Christmas present ever. You're going to think it's the silliest thing. But my husband actually, I don't know if you remembered, I'm pretty sure I told you about like one of my little guilty pleasures. And one of the things that makes me happy, even when I am like really down, he found me a dog shaming calendar.
Oh my gosh. I don't even know what a dog shaming calendar is, but it sounds hilarious and I have to hear more about it.
It is hilarious. So I love, like, anytime I'm like really, kind of like down in the dumps, I will Google cat shaming or dog shaming memes.
Right.
And there's your little guilty dog who's got like a little sign and they did something like, really messed up.
I remember you telling me about these.
Yeah. And it just makes me kind of laugh.
Hilarious.
So
wonderful.
It was like a really great gift and unexpected. And I think that, my kids will probably hate me for this, but like one of my best presents this year was that. Yeah, because they're just, so I have a calendar like next to my computer and I'm, just getting to like,
you've always got joy right there.
And I just always have joy right there. Yeah, it brings me a little spark of joy. So I'm happy about that. And I feel like that'll be a fun thing in 2026 for me. How about
I love that for you.
Yeah.
Oh, I am good. My mind is racing on this thing that I saw. I think it was yesterday. It's the most recent innovation in umbrellas. And it's called
tell me.
Right? This is wild. It's called the Ori. It is wildly expensive for an umbrella. It's like $250. This is not an umbrella I'm getting for me and my lifestyle, but it has no internal ribs. It's like origami. And it folds out so it's like a solid structure.
Wow.
It's the coolest thing I've seen, like watching the videos of it. I'm obsessed with it. I hope someone out there hears this and tells us about it if they buy one, if their lifestyle is one where, a $250 umbrella makes sense, which, again, it's not like crazy. It's not like $10,000, but like you have to charge it and stuff. There's like no way I would ever be able to
you have to charge. Yeah, I would never be charging my umbrella.
I would never be charged. I wouldn't have it with me. Like,
and I lose them. I lose them.
Yep.
I forget them. Go to a doctor's office, put it, in the little thing, and then walk out. So, that would not be a good thing for my lifestyle either.
Know thyself, right? But I'm obsessed with them, so I would love to hear if anybody gets one. They just look so cool, and I'm always excited to see, new inventions and things.
Well, yeah, this is like right up your alley, my tech friend, right?
Exactly, and kind of in line with kind of what we're talking about today a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a story of a founder who kind of took a different turn. As opposed to launching his product, he actually decided to pull it back. And so we're talking about, I just want to make sure I have all the names right. We're talking about Joe Braidwood.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's
and his AI called Yara AI, which was intended to be like a therapeutic tool. It was like built with like, I think his co-founder was a therapist or
clinical psychologist. And then they had an ethicist, I think, on their
an AI
board.
ethicist, I think. Yeah.
He really went, I think, above and beyond to create a tool that really took in mind like the spirit of creating something safe, well thought out, and that could be a really helpful tool and really helpful in the field of mental health. I thought he really, really tried.
Yeah. And took a very intentional approach to it. And I think some of the lessons that they learned are kind of important to highlight just as for anybody who's like an AI user or who uses AI in this capacity. I think one of the things that jumped out at me in the article, or, kind of like reminded me of, was like when it says like, people can, sorry, one of the main premises is that like where AI really falls down horrifically is when people are in need of like expert clinical intervention. Like in crisis, like those are times where AI is wildly inappropriate as a tool, and they get into why. But I think that, so the idea that, they went in with all of these things and then still couldn't get to a place where they felt comfortable is really interesting.
Yeah, and it was more than just like not being comfortable. He made this distinction between it's dangerous. It's not inadequate. It actually ends up being dangerous. So like something could be inadequate or inappropriate, but to like really take a look, a deep look. I really have so much appreciation for him, for his honesty, and his ability to have this transparency, to really look at it and say, this is wildly inappropriate. This is really dangerous. This isn't just like missing the mark a little bit, but it could really be harmful to people. And he turned it down. He shut it down after a year. I don't think we see this, Jackie. Is this like blowing your mind?
I mean, it is blowing my mind. I think, there were definitely some factors that play in my mind that made it a little bit more realistic, and that it was, a low dollar investment. I think, $1 million in, and they had about 1,000 trial users at that point. So probably privately funded, where you're not going to get the pressure, I think he had the opportunity perhaps to have less pressure and more opportunity to back away than in some situations, where you have different stakeholders at the table who've contributed perhaps more capital. But regardless of that, I think just the idea of being able to say it's not right and walk away is like huge. Like that's a really hard place to come to, and then to do it publicly, and to talk about why, and then to open source like what you had developed in the hopes that people can use it for themselves, which I thought was pretty interesting. So they've open sourced sort of the tools that they, or the codes that they use to kind of guide people into making, where the chatbot sent them down the direction of you need a clinical intervention and started to pressure for that. And they've made that accessible to anybody, which I think is really very, very cool. I think everything they did was, like I think stepping away was like a very, had a lot of integrity behind it, and is really like heartwarming.
That is really like the best word here. Like there's so much integrity and heart. Like those really do both go together. There was just so much thought in not only stopping the process, but then what they could do with it and how they could educate people. I think he's kind of out in the circuit, like really talking about this topic and continuing to educate people, and talking about like there's a big difference between wellness and clinical care. And
it's blurry.
And it's blurry. Moreover, the little signs that build up over the way can very easily be missed. Where a human, some human beings have trouble picking that up, but a human might be more apt to pick up the little pieces.
Apparently it's something AI is really bad at. Like
really bad at. And he talked about like if you train it on, AI slop, that's kind of like the input, and that's what you're going to get out of it. The model's trying to figure out whether or not somebody needs clinical care, but they may be pulling in information that comes from a wellness model and making assumptions. And the other piece was this, I love the way they said like the sniggering that AI does, because it's looking to see how can I be helpful for you? Like, what do you really want to hear? It's telling you what you want to hear rather than what you need. And that's a really difficult thing for therapists. I mean, I could tell you from my perspective, I know some of my clients want reassurance. A chatbot might pick that up and give that to them, but that's not what they need. I give clients what they need, not what they want, because what they want isn't really what they need. What they want is not clinically relevant or helpful to them. So that's a big piece of that, like kind of that nuanced piece that how do you teach that if your the basic function
the underlying
I'm going to give you what you need. Now, this is interesting. I don't know if I ever told you this, Jackie, but I think it was probably I want to say 2022, I started getting emails from different companies that basically wanted to use me to add, like, to help train chatbots. Like, I think they want to install something that would be there during sessions. And, I had nothing to do with that. I deleted every single email. So, and I was actually, I went back through my emails to see, oh, gee, I wonder if Yara was one of those companies that, like, asked for any input.
Looking for somebody.
I don't know, but it was alarming for me at the time to imagine that, I didn't want to train a chatbot on how to do that. Like, it just feels really unethical to do that.
And I thought it was so interesting too, because I guess not sitting, in the seat that you sit at every day and, ruminating on some of the, like the decisions you make on where things fit as far as that wellness versus clinical. I found that really like an interesting thought exercise, and how interesting and blurry that line is, and how difficult that must be, as a practitioner to navigate, even, on a day-to-day basis, kind of like where you fit in that line or whatnot. But I thought that the idea that then they took it and they made it available to anybody, at least from what they got, what was encouraging, but really upsetting too, how these, like, the big platforms, and they even chose not to go with ChatGPT. They only went with like Anthropic and these other guys, hoping to get around the idea of, and it didn't work. It was
well, I don't think they were, like, building something. They definitely weren't building something for clinical care. They were they were building for wellness, but the chatbot couldn't figure out when that person needed a clinician,
and direct them,
and direct them in the right direction. The seat I sit in every day is from a clinical perspective. Everything is clinical,
Interesting.
Everything is clinical.
Interesting.
That's kind of,
I mean, that makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. It all comes back to, like, whatever anyone is saying is grist for the mill. It's like, oh, like, that's interesting. Let's make some space for that. What is that? What is happening there? And I get really curious about that. And, I feel like I'm always directing into the inner landscape and bringing people back there. So I try to make everything kind of relevant and as clinical as possible, because that's what clients are paying me for.
Right. That's what they're there for,
not to be a friend who's going to ask them, hey, what are you doing? And it's interesting. Sometimes that's actually the feedback that I get back from people who've worked with other clinicians, and like, they see kind of the difference, and they like coming back to and being reminded, oh yeah, that's why I'm in therapy. Right. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like if you go to the gym and, like, you hire the trainer and you just sit and eat potato chips. It's like, that wouldn't be any good.
No, it wouldn't be any good.
And nobody would think about doing that, right? Like, that would not sound like a sane thing for a person to do.
Yeah, and I don't want to call AI junk food, but I'm, like, kind of glad you made that analogy, because it might be a person who's coming with, really deep wounds, and it's like the chatbot is eating potato chips, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of on break and like, oh, well, what do you want to hear?
Right.
And if we looked at it that way, then we can realize how inappropriate it is. I mean, Illinois has a law banning AI for therapy. And I think that was part of their wake-up call, was that if a state is banning it, then, they're going to...
How do we go raise more money?
How are we going to do that?
Right. How do we get real clear that we're drawing that line, and where is that line? And are we comfortable that that's the same place?
So I don't think you could tell people, come to this chatbot for wellness. If it says it's mental health or even for wellness, people are not aware. And that might have been in the article too, right? That people are not aware that they need clinical care. Right. They're coming for wellness, and here's all these signs that are starting to ramp up. The chatbot's still working under the assumption that we're under a wellness model. And not seeing the signs that there's a shift, because people are not aware of the care that they need.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes a lot of sense. Wow. Well, I also thought it was encouraging what Illinois did. And I went and clicked on a further link in that article, and I saw that my own state, Florida, is actually supposedly going to have some rules around that, which I thought was encouraging.
I think that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
I really would love to see other states really take a stand on this and take a look at what the guardrails should be around this, especially with mental health, especially people who are in a fragile emotional state and people who may not realize that they're heading in that direction
Right.
before it becomes a problem. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I don't know. My mind like jumps to all things but different ways. But I remember a few months ago now, we were talking about some of the security features that ChatGPT was putting into place as far as if it detected things like suicidal ideation, that it would alert like a caregiver or whatever.
That was for teenagers,
For
though. I think
teenagers, though,
that was
yeah.
only for teenagers.
But almost thinking like, maybe something like that. I know when I went to talk to my financial advisor like last year or whatever, one of the things that they started implementing was something that if like your spending patterns start to become off, like that you designate somebody, like I designated my daughter, that they could contact and be like, hey, we're concerned, like we're seeing, like so that people can help detect elder abuse and things like that. And so like, is there some sort of like opt-in policy perhaps that these AI companies could have where, like my accountability buddy or whatever,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that they could check in with or.
That would be great, but I think it's not going to solve this fundamental problem of getting these chatbots to understand the difference between
Right.
saying what you want and really being helpful. The difference between support and getting care immediately for someone, even if
Yeah.
that's something they don't want.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really hard thing, given the way I heard them talk about these models, that is probably hard to teach them.
Right. And picking up, like you said, on those incremental changes as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps that is something that technologically gets solved in the near term. Who knows? But definitely that making sure that people in need get redirected to care immediately, whether or not that's what they want, I think is a much more difficult problem. It sounded like, at least from the article and their perspective.
Yeah. Joe Braidwood, I think, was really affected by the 16-year-old
Oh,
who completed suicide, and that case against OpenAI. That was another driving force and really having some transparency about this and deciding to shut this whole thing down. Yeah, AI doesn't know where to stop. And I thought about that, like, that is an important function.
yeah.
Even, like for therapists too. I mean, I clinically have to make decisions, even if like, I was thinking about kind of this end of it. If they can get AI to figure out the difference between the clinical and the support, then they also really have to teach it how to stop and when to stop when someone's not getting overwhelmed, right? So like I make that clinical decision. If we're going into a direction and I see overwhelm, we're going to need to do some grounding. We're going to need to maybe backtrack a little bit. You can't push ahead. You're going to create stronger defenses and more pain and suffering in people. And if AI doesn't know where to stop, and it doesn't know where to stop. I mean, if you've ever used it, like even to write like an email, you can put in a perfect email. It's going to tell you, because you're showing up, it's going to tell you some things that are wrong with it.
Right.
And then
give me something to edit. I'll give you some red lines.
give it right. Like,
I added my value. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever it is that you might use it for, it's always going to give you more to do with it. So what does that look like with human beings? That could look like overwhelm. That could set people, kind of set people off. And I think that, what did he say? People deserve better than what they're getting right now with these chatbots. And they do. And even teaching it to do clinical, which I'm not recommending.
No.
I think ethically there's going to be some problems with that because it really doesn't know when to stop. And when you see someone, it's very, very different than, like, as you know, when we text each other sometimes, right? You don't see the tone, you don't see the voice, the facial expressions. You don't know what's going on.
For sure.
Right? Chatbot, somebody could be crying and typing.
Right, and it sounds perfectly calm.
Right, but their nervous system is completely dysregulated, and the, chatbot certainly isn't going to pick up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think, and also, like, even as a human quality, right? Knowing when to stop, that jumped out at me because I think this article kind of really hits that on the head too, right? Like this guy decided it was time to stop and did. And I think societally we don't celebrate stopping or quitting or failing as much as we perhaps should, but it's as important as deciding to move forward. It's a really hard
Sure.
one for a lot of people to grasp, I think, too.
Yeah, I really want to give him so much credit for stopping. That was like such an important
Yeah. Yeah, and you never know where it's going to take you. I thought it was interesting too where this has kind of led him into AI what was it? Privacy
yeah.
transparency, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um so interesting how, like it steps into the next thing that really is your passion and thing you can get behind because I think his passion still is being able to deliver help to people, on a more broad basis, an area, but like he understands that this is
Yeah.
the next stepping stone before that's really a possibility in his
Yeah,
mind.
like there's so like his heart could be in the wanting to help people, but he's willing to slow it down,
Yeah.
right? And take the steps to really see and make
Yeah.
decisions along the way and
Mhm.
open up the conversation. I think that that's a big piece of what he's doing now. Like we don't have our heads in let's not have our heads in the sand.
Yeah.
Let's really open up these conversations because if we want that eventually, we really have a lot of work to do before we get there. So I really appreciate him. I love this. I love this topic. I love this article. Really appreciate Joe Braidwood and what he's doing and said and
Yeah. And I think also the other thing too is in the tech space, you don't see a lot of people whose goal is to stay, to go a year at $1 million, of capital in, right? Like, I mean, if you have that, you're looking for your next raise the day, that comes in. And to be able to understand the importance of that and not get caught up in it is just really impressive. And I think something that is important for us to say, hey, like pause and look at this as like
right.
as a model that it's not necessarily correct for everything, but it's might be really applicable to things that are highly sensitive, such as mental health
Yeah. Yeah.
or
This
healthcare in general.
right. And this fits in with something we were talking about recently, just like about corporate culture
Hmm.
and the like kind of the focus on the needs and what's happening on the inside. If it's a go 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 culture, it doesn't match what Joe Braidwood is doing.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
it has to match in that, like in that way too, in that value laden, we're going back to values that have to do about people and not money. It just speaks to like kind of a broader there's a broader stroke there.
yeah. No, I loved that, and I thought this had like so many interesting. This article had so many interesting points and things I didn't know about, and really great sort of heartwarming entrepreneurial
Yeah.
perspectives. Yeah,
And it's a
model.
great
Yeah.
model. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do feel that way. Like this is a great modeling for what a corporate responsibility.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, similarly, I read an article over the weekend about I think it was Alaska, but they've had this like failed is probably too extreme, but they have this AI project to help with the probate system and it's gone years and millions of dollars over budget and, isn't to the level that it needs to be, of reliability to have it be customer facing, so to speak, for the residents yet. And, they spoke to how difficult it was. And that's just for probate, right? Like that's something that like theoretically everything should be outlined in a law and you can match, it should be pretty straightforward support. And this, imagine extrapolating that out to, something as intricate as mental health care.
And unique and
Right. Yeah.
individual, right? Like legal things are very, there's not
Should
a
be,
lot
right?
of room, right? Should be.
Yeah. Should be
Right.
a distinct set.
But
Like,
then you have the uniqueness of
yeah.
every single person. My goodness,
Right.
right? Like their histories and upbringing and culture and yeah, there's so much.
Yeah. So really interesting. I thought a fun intersection of our tech and entrepreneurial and therapeutic perspectives to
Yeah.
launch into the second season of our show.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this topic to us. And you'll put the article in the show notes, right?
Absolutely. Article will be in the show notes. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And looking forward to talking to you guys next week.
Yeah. Happy 2026.
Happy 2026. Thanks, Toni. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.